Is your small business growing? That's the question we address right here on the Grow Your Biz Show. It's where we interview strategic entrepreneurs who inform and inspire you on your solopreneur or small company journey. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Grow Your Biz Show. Entrepreneurs, do you want to get your product to market faster, better, cheaper? If so, this is the episode for you. Hi, I'm Paul Madsen of growmedia.com, and you are watching the Grow Your Biz Show, episode number 112. With me today is Raheem Sanders.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you today, Raheem.
Likewise.
Raheem is with PPRP
Innovations.
PPRP Innovations. I always goof it up, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we're going to hear his story right away. First, however, I want to let you know that growmedia.com helps grow your social media engagement through our short strategic videos. That's what we do, Raheem.
All right.
What do you do?
So through,
I have a better way to frame that question for you.
Yeah.
And this is this. Tell us, what business are you in? In other words, what customer benefits does your company provide?
All right, sure. So PPRP Innovations, through the use of public health methodologies, we help small businesses manage and understand the activities related to launching and sustaining their products.
Wow. Well, who as an entrepreneur doesn't need that?
All of them do.
Well, you're product oriented, not so much for helping someone do a service.
Indeed.
And so tell us what that means. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur and I have a product and I just know it's the next best mousetrap.
Sure.
How do I get that to market? How can you help?
Sure. So what our services focus on is a concept called product market fit. And if you are an entrepreneur, you know exactly what that concept is, but it's essentially having a product that fits well with your market, that your market is willing to pay for. Through our services, again, we teach small businesses how to manage and how to understand those activities so that they can reach product market fit faster while maintaining and launching a product that their customers love.
Interesting. Product market fit.
Indeed.
I mean, so often, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs on this show and in the networking I do out there. So often, Raheem, I see people falling in love with their product first. Do you see that? Where they just know they have that better mousetrap.
Yeah.
And they have no data.
Yeah.
Is that where you come in?
I see that all the time. Statistically speaking, 80% of all entrepreneurs make that same mistake. They go in, they develop a product that they know for sure people would love, and they don't collect data around it. And I see it all the time, but those are the types of clients that we work with, because all good products do not be the same way that they were when the idea was created. And they go through numerous steps and iterations using data to understand how they can further improve that product. So that's essentially what we do with our services.
Interesting. The key I keep hearing here is data.
Data is important.
Data is the king. Data is the driver of everything. I mean, can you define that? What does that really mean for, I have a small business and I want to sell T-shirts or a drink mix or anything, some kind of specialty nail,
Sure.
I don't know. How can data help me to make a better offering, and how can you help me get that data?
For sure. So data is very important. A lot of times in small businesses, as we mentioned, we miss that step in terms of collecting that information. But with the right data, you can do a number of things and use that data to drive the decisions that you make. Like, for example, with the business you put out, for example, with the proper metrics to understand how you measure the performance of not only your product, but your success, you can use that data and collect that data and gain that information so that you have that data to back up the metrics that you set and better understand how your business or your product is progressing. So without data, you're kind of just willy-nilly doing all types of things, but with data, you're making data-driven decisions.
I'm going to interrupt you. Where do I get data? How do I find this customer, this mysterious customer data out there?
Yeah, it depends.
Let's make it very practical.
Yeah.
Let's say I want to launch I wouldn't launch a tennis shoe company, but I've used the example on the show before, a coffee cup company.
Yeah.
How do I collect data to make my offering better, make my product more likely to succeed?
Yeah, so the method you collect data, it really differs between, depending on the problem that you are trying to solve.
Okay.
But essentially, all data.
I like that answer. I
Yes.
really like that
Thank
answer
you.
because, you know, I mean, those people we talked about who fall in love with their product. I have a great idea.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world's going to be
But does it solve a problem?
Yeah, it's not they just in love with it and didn't solve a problem. Right?
Yep. So with the data, if you have a problem you're trying to solve, you go through a strategy called customer engagement.
Okay.
And that's where you collect your data. So when you introduce a product to someone and they tell you what they like about it, or they tell you what they don't like about it, or they don't tell you anything at all, all of that is data.
Is that a survey that gets you that
You
information?
could do it in a survey, you could do it in conversation, you can do it in a number of different ways. But the point of the matter is understanding what problem you're trying to solve and engaging with customers to understand the value that your product brings. And you use metrics to collect data around those issues, so when you go back and you make the improvements to your product, you have information that's telling you exactly how you should make those improvements and how you should raise awareness, or even how you should advertise your brand, using that data to drive decisions to progress.
Okay, and so you're telling me that I need to gather that information. I can gather face-to-face conversation,
yes indeed,
a telephone call, a piece of mail, electronically, email, or some kind of survey on a
survey
website,
online,
or social media. And has your company used all of those tools?
We use all types of tools and more.
And more.
Yeah, it depends
what's
on.
More,
so
instance?
more, it really depends on the industry. Like for example, one of our clients was trying to produce a mobile application to get information about what people would want or expect in a lifestyle retreat. So we've done the surveys, we've done some networking, but another method that we've used is to test out different messaging that they're posting online, and using that website to collect the data about the impressions that those messages are making. So when they go out in public to try to sell the application, they know how to communicate with each type of customer that they're serving.
Sure. When you're talking, it reminds me of gentleman we had on the show actually twice, Taylor Kerensky.
Yeah, I know him. He's a really good guy. Adsky Labs.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of is in a little bit of the same world as you.
He does.
He made the quote, and I love it. He learned this from a professor in college. They said, before you launch your product, go talk to 100 people.
Yes.
And that sounds intimidating, but I'm working on that for a new product launch I'm working on, and I'm up to about 8 now.
That's what's up. Hey,
9 with you.
Congratulations.
But every time I talk to somebody, well, the first guy, he kind of blew me out of the water. I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that at all. I had fallen in love with my product idea, and it was going to change the world. And then I demonstrated, or I just talked about it with a whiteboard to a gentleman, and I go, I had never thought about that. And so you're that on steroids.
Indeed. And as I teach all of my clients, and as we practice ourselves, as we develop our own products, we want to make sure that we test all hypotheses possible. And hypotheses meaning educated guesses. Okay, right. So like we mentioned earlier, we have a problem that we're trying to solve. We have a product that we're trying to do it with. An alternative, instead of falling in love with your idea, is to test the hypotheses. Do people love this idea?
Do other people love it?
People
will pay.
And if you follow the advice of good friend Taylor and test it with 100 people and document the feedback that you get, you have data that's telling you exactly how you should build.
And so you help your clients do that.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, and I got off track, but I wanted to ask you, why are you in this business? I mean, it's kind of an obscure, behind the wall kind of thing. No one's ever really heard of, what's your field again?
Public health technology, epidemiology.
It doesn't sound like data to me, but it is. Tell us a little bit about that and why and how you got into this.
Okay, so I've been practicing public health a little over 10 years now, and I got my start within public health as an epidemiologist. As we explained, as one that studies data and uses it to predict outcomes. So in that process of serving public health needs, I realized that we're intaking a lot of information about health problems all across the globe.
Right.
And with public health, we take a lot of resources to conduct that research to
Tons
figure
of
out
research.
solutions.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
But one thing that we don't do is follow up on that research and create products that address those issues so we can provide solutions.
Why is that?
I'm not too sure.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
familiar with, and I'll probably get the name wrong, University of Nebraska Medical Center
Indeed.
has is
College
it
of
called
Public
technology transfer or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Where they try to get, I mean, they do a ton of research, of course.
Yes.
And they try to get that to market. Do you know
Yes.
anything about that
Oh
group?
yeah, they have actually a few initiatives working on public health and medical related
Mm-hmm.
technological problems. So they are beginning to become, I guess, leaders in that field.
Sure.
But this public health technology is something that we've been doing, again, for about 10 years.
Right, right.
And one of the things that we aim to do with it is to be able to not only provide products that solve real world issues, but to also empower the people who are developing other products to do the same. Because I'm an epidemiologist, and again, I study data, but I don't know all the data.
Right.
But there may be somebody out there that has a cure to something or have a solution to a problem
Right.
that I haven't
Sure.
uncovered yet. But if I empower them with the tools to make their own products.
So you
then
want to be
they
the
can
facilitator of
Indeed.
their process as well.
I want to help them become successful.
Right, right.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We're going to talk more about an opportunity for that later
Yes,
on.
indeed.
So do remind me.
Good opportunity.
Do remind me. Yes, exactly. Back to the why. I mean, why does this float your boat? 10 years ago, when you became a data scientist, so to
Yes.
speak. I mean, why did that field attract you, and why did you want to do this side hustle business?
Yes.
And all that.
Yeah, it attracted me the most because 10 years ago, a lot of the emerging public health issues, like your chronic illnesses, it was, statistically becoming a really big ordeal. And like I mentioned, a lot of time we spend doing research, but not creating,
Right.
preventative solutions to these
Okay.
problems. And I wanted to fill that void so that I can use my skills that I have in conducting research and using data to drive decisions, but I wanted to have a preventative approach to what we're doing. So instead of studying, what the issue is, let's provide some solutions to these problems.
And so what's an example that you've done to try to help turn that corner?
Indeed.
Research here, solution over here.
Indeed.
How are you starting to turn that corner?
So one example is a product that we have called Cleanse. It's a 16-ounce beverage, and within that beverage, you get 2.5 servings of whole fruit and vegetables.
Wow.
So the problem we're trying to solve is related to the chronic disease epidemic. And a lot of those studies, one of the major risk factors is that people do not intake the amount of nutritious foods
Okay.
that they need. So we're talking about your fruits and your vegetables and things that like that. Foods that provide, high energy, but,
Sure.
calorie,
Lower
dense
yeah.
type of products. But in a lot of those areas too, there's a concept called social determinants of health, where your environment has risk factors at play that decreases your likelihood to achieve optimum health. And along with lack of nutrition is access to nutritious foods.
Okay.
So we wanted to prevent both of that. If we could figure out a way to provide people with all the fruit and vegetables they need in a very quick way, but packaged so that they can access it in neighborhood areas,
Right.
then we could begin to prevent some of the chronic disease that's going on in our communities.
I'm in.
And that's
I'm
how
in.
we came up with Cleanse.
Cleanse, okay.
Yep.
And you're not to market with that yet, or are you?
We're testing it out on a very small population
Okay.
right now, so it's limited availability, but
Okay,
within the
right.
month,
Sure.
we're working on scaling that out throughout the state.
Now, part of my why question is what makes you different? I mean, what's different about Cleanse than some other energy drink or whatever you call it?
Yeah, so
Nutritional drink.
Cleanse, the major difference about it is that, again, it has whole fruit and vegetables in it. All of the healthy beverages that's on the market right now, if you look at the nutrition label, it's between 1 and 10% all juice.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a lot of the
Right.
vitamins and minerals that you think you are getting.
Right.
With Cleanse, you are getting all
Okay.
of the vitamins and minerals that you
And
should
so
be getting.
how has data helped you create this product?
Oh yeah, so data was the main thing that helped us shape out the type of product we wanted to design. Without the data telling us about how the lack of nutrition is affecting.
And how did you find? I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry.
Oh.
How did you find the data? How do you start down that path? I'm a lowly entrepreneur and I have my cup company
Yes.
or whatever. How do I start down the path of if I haven't engaged your company yet,
Yes,
how do I start down the path of collecting data, collecting information, so I can make these informed decisions?
Indeed, and that goes back to what we mentioned about your hypothesis.
Okay.
In order to begin figuring out what type of data you need to collect, you need to have a hypothesis on what you're trying to do and the assumptions you're trying to make.
Okay, right, and the problem you're trying to solve.
Yes, and based off that hypothesis, you identify metrics that you can use to collect the data that you need to validate the hypothesis that you have.
And your company helps a small company or a large company do that?
Large companies, small companies, all companies or people or things that are essentially trying to build a product that brings value to the people. We work with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. And so, backing up a little, when you started as an employee with your master's degree, how long before you realized that I want to do something on my own? This show is for entrepreneurs and for people who want to launch their own thing or get to the next level in their own thing.
Indeed.
How long before you got the itch?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I had the itch when I was in school.
Okay.
So before I even reached the job market, I already had in mind that I wanted to do something to change the world. But what I understood I needed was experience. I did not want to go out there with a hypothesis that had not been validated. So I wanted to gain that experience as a public health professional so I can understand the things that I need to do, the skills that I need to have, the people I need to bring in to start developing some of these solutions. So to answer your question, it started way back when I was getting my master's, but I strategically used that time to understand exactly what I'm trying to build, what value I'm trying to bring to the community, and figure out the different things that I need to have in place to get that done. And then that's where my company came to fruition.
Gotcha. Well, you had that drive early on.
Yes, indeed.
And you never saw, okay, if I get this master's degree, I can go get a job in a cubicle in a major corporation or a major university and study data and crunch data all my life. That wasn't you.
Nah, so that people don't get it confused. As a public health professional, I have a duty to serve the public. So even though I own a company, one of the things that I challenge myself to do is to still be active in the community as a public health professional. So in any type of way that I can lead the initiative to make preventative solutions for some of these problems, I try to serve that through my epidemiology and how I practice that on an everyday basis.
Where does that urge come from? Where does that drive come from that you want to serve the community so much? I mean, not everybody has that.
No. And luckily for me, I've had a lot of interesting experiences over the time in my life. I'm from a really small town in South Carolina called Chester, South Carolina. Went to college in Virginia, and then I moved out here for my master's. But throughout all of that time, there's things that have been going on for years that have impacted the health and the lives of communities. There's social determinants of health on environmental and interpersonal levels that repetitive and it's impacting generation after generation. And growing up, I was able to see those same social determinants of health in different environments. And I always had the question in my mind, why is this problem so prevalent
why does it keep going?
All of these areas, and why hasn't anybody came up with a solution? So that's what I strive to do, come up with a solution that has been affecting our communities with problems for the past centuries.
And you're going back to your original comment of what problem are you wanting to solve?
Indeed,
and but you look at through it the lens of a public health medium.
As an epidemiologist.
Now, earlier on you said something about public health methodologies. To solve these problems with data. What does that mean when you say public health methodologies? Or is that just your market?
Oh, no, that's an actual thing. So in public health, before you conduct any type of research, you need a methodology to make sure you're not, one, introducing bias in the research that you're collecting.
Good point.
But two, that you have a system in place so that you can properly measure the outcome of whatever it is that you're testing. I like to use that approach with the clients that I work with to develop products, because if you can control the environment in which you're testing your products, you can get better data to help you understand what's going on and the problems that your product is having. And the more actual data that you have without bias introduced, the better you can validate your hypothesis and begin to make changes to improve your product to deliver increased value and to also decrease the risk around it. So when I mentioned public health methodologies, I mentioned the entire system of planning out, casting a vision, putting a strategic plan together, short-term, long-term goals, identifying all of the elements that are required to make your product or the test that you're conducting valid, and then doing the proper activities, if you will, inviting the proper people, identifying all the components necessary to have a validated, I guess, research being conducted on the hypothesis you're trying to study. So we use those methodologies, same ones that they do on million-dollar research initiatives across the globe. I want to provide those same methodologies to entrepreneurs. So when they're developing their products, they're not developing a confusing system. They're developing a process that they know is going to deliver value.
Well, it's all about the methodology, it sounds like. And then I see the value of what you offer of helping that, because there's so many. I mean, there's people like myself who worked in corporate America for many years and then all of a sudden are on our own. And we don't have a clue about some of the stuff you just said and methodologies, and we've fallen in love with our product and we don't know what problem we're trying to solve, and so you help with all those. So let's speak about your company a little bit more. You have a staff of some helpers, and what kinds of problems do you solve for your clients?
All right, so for all the clients that we serve right now, along the way of their product development journey, they have fallen short.
Product development journey,
indeed.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
So they've fallen short, whether it's with the challenges that are that create themselves when they're trying to sell their product, or they become overwhelmed and overworked and trying to implement the product. A number of challenges depending on the client. What we like to do is introduce to them a strategy and a process so that it decreases the amount of risk that they could introduce on their own in their product development journey, but gives them a step-by-step process on the things they need to do to quickly advance their product.
Can you give us an example of you don't have to name the company, but of a company you've worked with that you took from A to B to C?
Yes. So one of my clients, locally actually, I've been working with her for only 6 months, and in the beginning of our relationship, she had a pre-existing product. It was getting a little bit exposure, but the way that she was implementing it wasn't the most strategic. So what I did is introduce myself, and I showed her a better way. You can do it the way that most entrepreneurs do, and it'll take you 3 to 5, maybe even more years to reach success. Or I can show you a step-by-step process that you can take, and in less than a year, you can have a business with a product that people love. So I've been working with her only 6 months.
And what difference has that made in her, her offerings?
So
she's gone from what to what?
So in the beginning, she just had, I believe, a social media platform. I think it was just only Facebook with a little bit of followers. But in 6 months, we developed her entire platform around her product. We're talking about web. We're talking about, all types of things. And then we identified the best ways that we should position her product to deliver high value to their customers. So in 6 months, we developed a system for her product. We developed a plan that helps her achieve her goals. We set goals. We equipped her with business models.
But this is more than a business plan. It's more of a strategic thing, right?
A product development plan.
Back to
so
that,
we equipped her with business models. We equipped her with sales strategies. We equipped her with marketing strategies, all different types of strategies that enhances the entire brand of her product. So in 6 months, she's taken her business from idea concept with little support to growing it over 3,000%.
Whoa, well, that's a number.
And that's in 6 months. We're not even done yet.
Yeah, we're just getting rolling. Well, we're almost done, so we need to wrap up with some of this conversation. My joke earlier before we started on air was, if there was only a place where I, as an entrepreneur, could go and learn this in just a couple of days, how could that? I wish there was something like that. Is there something like that?
Man, there is something like that.
Open that door.
I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I have, for the people, the 2020 Build Your Dream Product Workshop. So on April 18th and 19th, in 2 days, but in 8 hours total, we'll be teaching the people all the fundamentals necessary to build a commercial grade product. So So the same things that I do with my clientele in a year, we'll be doing those in 2 days.
Oh, really?
Yes, indeed. So again, strategic planning, vision casting, business modeling, engaging with customers, data analyses, data collection, and using data to drive decisions, marketing strategies, how to do sales funnels and value ladders, and more specifically, how to further implement your product so that you can develop it within a year. We'll be teaching all of those things.
Sounds ambitious. Is it pie in the sky?
No, no pie in the sky.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there and a lot to cover. This is, I just love the name, Build Your Dream Product. I love it.
And to note, it's a workshop. It's not a conference. It's not a retreat. It's not a spot. When you get there, and there's a lot to do from what we discussed.
You bet.
It's a lot that
Very
we're going to be
April 18th and 19th.
19th.
We'll put some of the contact information about how to do that. I mean, what do you have other speakers? What's the format? What are you looking at doing here?
So at the workshop, mainly I'm going to just be taking the time to teach people a lot of these fundamentals, but I will have some of my clientele there to provide some testimonials,
awesome.
so that not only they have the opportunity to learn these concepts, but they can go back and ask questions to not only myself but to other people who's implemented these same things, and understand what they thought about it and what they've learned and what they didn't like. It's all about customer engagement.
Well, yes.
Yes.
And there's formats and breakout groups and bigger speeches and things like that. And where's it going to be held?
Right now, we're
UNMC?
Actually working out some more logistics.
Gotcha.
Because we originally had it at the UNMC College of Public Health, but a lot of people have been demanding it.
Okay.
So we want to make sure we have a space.
That big enough. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, that is a good problem.
Well, check out that workshop because it's coming up, and I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm in, man. And so it sounds like a winner for all of us who are trying to build our next level of entrepreneurial steps. So Raheem, I've really enjoyed this chat. I wish we could talk longer.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I've learned a lot. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And until next week's show, be sure to check out growmedia.com, where you can build your social media videos and social media engagement. We'll help you out with that ourselves as well. So, Raheem, my parting thought is to remind people to go on out and grow something. We'll see you next week.